Happy Pride Month, everybody. This is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk to you about the legend himself, RuPaul. So, for Pride Month, I decided to do my Pride appreciation for that of the most famous drag queen of all time, the one and only RuPaul. I don't know if there are any other like drag queens that are like, as iconic or like well known or beloved like RuPaul is. And I truly believe RuPaul is truly the most famous of all drag queens in the entirety of the world, not just America, but the world. RuPaul isn't just an icon because, they happen to be like a celebrity who has done like movies, made music, and um, and happen to be like a drag queen. They're an icon because of the simple fact that RuPaul was doing this in a time where people hated like the LGBT, where people hated drag queens. And the thing is, even the most like hateful person, in society will probably respect that of RuPaul. RuPaul is respected throughout many, many, many communities. The straight community, the LGBT, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, like you name it. And is an international star. And I've never, till this day, have ever heard of any like drag queen that is like as popular as RuPaul is. Like heck, even when I was on my tablet and I was searching up the name RuPaul, in the little suggestion thing on the tablet, not the computer internet, but the tablet, their name just automatically popped up. And that is like insane and everything, because normally you have to type a person's full name out. And RuPaul is only about like 65 years old, born in 1960. And so, like, when I say like he's been doing this since like a time where it was not the norm, that takes a lot of bravery and a lot of guts and everything, because I'm pretty sure RuPaul has probably struggled in life and has been hated on, but like RuPaul kept persevering and everything, to be this big megastar that they are. And the funny thing is, I remember growing up and my mom and my sister kept talking about RuPaul. Because of them, I always assumed that RuPaul's like name was like a stage name. But no. That's actually their real name. The real name is RuPaul Andre Charles and everything. I always assumed this RuPaul was just like a stage name. I thought Ru was the first name and Paul was like the second, or Paul could have been like his real name. But no, that's his biological name and stuff. And, and it's crazy because a lot of other people think about that too. And so, like, as an accomplished actor, singer, I still remember that song. Like, I forget the title of it, but the lyrics are "You Have to Work." That song still just pops in my head every once in a while, and the thing about RuPaul is like he is like known as being the queen of drag, which is something I remember. I think he was on Jimmy Fallon and he said that whatchamacallit, he's on Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Fallon's, call him like a drag queen, and he's like, no. And then he just paused for a while, and Jimmy kind of got scared, thinking, oh no, what did I say wrong? And he's all like, I am the queen of drags. And like the audience just like burst out with like applause and stuff like that. Because RuPaul is in the Guinness Book of World Records and stuff. And has won many awards, like over 14, I believe. And the thing is, even though RuPaul isn't like, a stable in like television acting or like movies and stuff, they have like done certain projects. I remember, I think the first time I ever saw RuPaul act, other than just being like, appearing on somebody's guest show or something like that, was this show called Popular. And it came out, I think, in the late 90s, early 2000s. I reviewed that show. Go watch that show. And RuPaul was supposedly somehow like the parent of like, I forget the character's name. But it was this one character. Oh God, what's her name? It was the blonde girl, the big girl, who was mean. Something Kelly, Shelly Kelly, Anna, something like that. Mary Cherry, that's it, Mary Cherry. And Mary Cherry had like a twin lost sister named Beho, who was like a good old white girl. And then like it turned out that RuPaul was like their parent, but I didn't understand how, because RuPaul's black and Mary Cherry's like white and stuff like that. But it was like this huge cliffhanger. So that was like the first time I ever saw them like act, other than like, appearing on somebody's like talk show and stuff. And I think RuPaul, like, he originally got like his start because like, I'm trying to think, what was it? Was in Georgia, I believe, then relocated to like New York City, where like, he became like, he started performing at like nightclubs and stuff like that, LGBT themes, because of course that was like probably the safest thing at that time for him and stuff. And but then once he started gaining more like popularity, I started seeing him on like talk shows like The View, where I remember Joy Behar got really pissed at him because she didn't want to take like beauty tips from a man who dresses like a woman. Since then, I believe she has apologized and feels horrible about like saying that. But that was like the early 90s and stuff when the show first came on. And so, RuPaul has been like a spokesperson. In the 90s, he has raised money for like, what is it? The Mac AIDS Fund, and becoming the first drag queen to land a major role in cosmetic campaigns. And the thing that's always inspiring about like some celebrity stories, not celebrities who are born of wealth. I can't stand those people. But RuPaul wasn't born of wealth. He grew up in a poor home and everything. And, he said like, his father was never there. His mom had a very volatile like temper. And I read on Wikipedia that, the mom tried to set the dad's like house or car on fire or something like that, and found out he was cheating. And so he came from a very broken home. And as I'm reading, it says something about like he felt, where is it? Disassociated from that of his body, and it deeply like impacted him. And so, after that, and when they moved to like Georgia, he started studying in the performing arts and stuff. But early on in his career in the 80s, like, he struggled. And I remember seeing an interview talking about how he struggled and stuff. That recently came out, 'cause, it wasn't easy. I mean, how could it be? You know what I'm saying? Like, he was trying to be like a singer and an entertainer and this and that. And, this was the 1980s, a time where black people were starting to be accepted, but still were being like dragged on and stuff. Not to mention, it had to be hard being like a drag queen and everything, Like, who was really going to take like him seriously, And so it was like a struggle for like the longest time. But then in the 90s, things started to look up a bit. He came out with that song, Supermodel. That's it, You Better Work. And it peaked at number 45 on the Billboard Hot 100. And if you never heard that song, you really, really should. But then, like, even bigger success came in like 1996, where a lot of well-known celebrities started doing like their own talk show. And RuPaul had one on VH1 called The RuPaul Show that lasted for 3 years, but only for 2 seasons of 100 episodes. And so for about 10 years, from like, 94 to the early 2000s, around 2006, RuPaul kept putting out music with about like 4 albums and stuff. But it was the early 2000s, around 2008 or so. This is when everybody, and I mean everybody, really would know who RuPaul is from a show called RuPaul's Drag Race. RuPaul Drag Race is still to this day going on with 18 seasons. It's a reality show. So for about 15 plus years, this show has been going on. A lot of scripted television shows don't last that long, unless you were like ER or something. But like reality shows, they can go on and on and on. And many people, like, of today mostly know RuPaul from that. And it's bopped around from different networks, from like MTV, VH1, Logo TV, and you can even watch it on Paramount Plus, which, because of the new ownership, who knows how long that show is going to be on there. Now, I've never watched this show, but like I know a lot of celebrities are like guest judges on this show. But probably one person who will never be a guest judge on this show is Kid Rock, despite drinking a Bud Light beer with that of a drag queen and everything. Oh, have y'all forgotten about this? I haven't. Remember when Bud Light decided to celebrate Pride Month and have like a transgender woman, like, do an ad commercial, and that's just it. And Kid Rock went like scorch earth like on that whole like ad, and caused so many men to hate Bud Light and the trans community by shooting up their beers and everything like that, and not buying like none of the beers. And the CEO had to resign, and they lost tons of money. But then all of a sudden, this picture surfaced. Him drinking a Bud Light beer, the beer that he proclaimed he would never drink again, and him being near a drag queen. Now, still to this day, nobody knows exactly why he was like hanging out with this person. Maybe they was invited, maybe they're friends. Who knows? Heck, he could even be on the down low for all we know. And so, like, and no, this picture is not AI. It is very much real. And like, or it could be damage control, because we all know that he's very friendly with the current administration, and so is Dana White. And Dana White, one of his sponsors for UFC is Bud Light. So if Bud Light is losing money, then they're gonna be not be able to like, sponsor that the UFC. So damage control had to come in play. Or like I said before, maybe he's just on the down low and everything. I mean, have you ever really truly seen a straight man wear tons of fur coats? I haven't. Unless they're fictional characters, fictional pimp characters, and like TVs and movies. But other than that, I've never seen this. Then of course, there's that whole workout video hot tub scene where he's like, in the hot tub as RFK Jr. is like working out shirtless and everything. And then they're in the hot tub together drinking. And I've never seen two straight men in the hot tub unless there was a woman there. And I don't see no woman. But RuPaul Drag Race has had about, 3 or 4 spin-offs and tons of international adaptations and everything. Like over 20 of them. And of course, the show is out on DVD and has been nominated and won several awards and stuff. So, now the only controversy I've ever heard about RuPaul is like his comments on the trans community. But since then have apologized and even had trans people appear on RuPaul Drag Race. Despite like the struggles in the early beginnings, RuPaul kept persevering, never giving up and everything, and has become a fixture in so many people's households and still acts to this day. Recently coming out with a movie called Stop That Train. And so, when it comes to that of RuPaul, one thing many people can take away from RuPaul is that no matter when the odds are against you, no matter if, you are different than what the norm of society tells you to be, you just keep on pushing and everything and never ever give up. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.